Today on the Lindsey Coralee Show, we are going to do one of my favorite things, propagating our houseplants. Woohoo!
The Lindsey Coralee Show, not long ago, we're vet techs now retired. The Lindsey Coralee Show, and now they go to what the F that they desire. The fabric snobs, but they're not snobs, just fabric tends to rouse them. The Lindsey Coralee Show, they like to sew, there's nothing cool about them.
Welcome back to the Lindsey Coralee Show. I'm Lindsey.
And I'm Coralee.
And we're here with a bunch of cuttings and a couple plants, and I'm going to show you how you can propagate them. So propagation is just a way of replicating your plants and making plant babies, which is so much fun. It's one of my favorite hobbies. So we have 4 different plants here that we're going to get some clippings of, and I'll show you how to do each one. So we'll start from this side and move this way. Or maybe we'll start with the Monstera because it's kind of the biggest one.
Fun fact that you don't know.
What?
I've never propagated anything before.
What?
Yeah, I've transplanted.
She's like my gardening gardener friend. Gardening gardener friend.
And it's not houseplants. I don't I keep them alive, but I have not started. Yeah.
So much fun.
Well, I'm
especially because
going to find
you
out
have a
how.
greenhouse and everything. Okay, let's start with Monstera because this is one of my favorite ones. I've given you one of my Monstera propagations.
It's still alive.
And I've given them to a few people now, and it's one of my favorite things to give because once Monsteras get going, they really grow big, and seeing a new Monstera leaf unfurl is so rewarding. Here is my Monstera. I just cut it down from the moss pole because I need to readjust it, but it's kind of out of control. So what we want to look for is nodes like this. That is where the root will grow out of, or air roots. I have 2 sections that I'm going to cut out. There's another littler node. And then down here, this is a smaller branch. You can see I've cut off there before to propagate. And then this one grew out of the node. And then here's a little teeny node that we're going to use for propagation. And then over here, this is a little bit of a bigger branch. I can see 2 nodes here. One's an air root at the bottom, and there's a node further up. So we'll chop that off and use that to propagate. Okay, now that we've cut these off the plant, we're just going to take a look at them and see how many cuttings we can get out of them. So this one, even though it has 3 leaves, they're kind of on the smaller side. They have no fenestrations yet. There's actually only 1 little nub here. So we're going to just propagate this whole thing. I have this big, I think it's a wine jug or something. I did not drink this wine. I bought this for a steal of a deal at HomeSense. It was actually $16.99 just for propagating my Monstera. So I'll fill it with water. It doesn't have water in it now. But I wanted something that was deep enough for the roots or the cuttings. So they had lots of room for roots to grow. And that was narrow at the top so they weren't flopping over to the side. It's very hard to find something that was big enough with a narrow mouth. So I would just put that in like that and fill it with water. So we have this other cutting here. It's a bit of a thicker root. And this one actually has 3 nodes. I thought it only had 2, but I found the 3rd one there.
What's the node?
So the nodes are, this one is actually a little air root growing. That's a node. So a root will come out of that. You need to have these nodes to be able to propagate a Monstera. So I'm just going to cut apart these 3 sections, and then I'm going to trim them down a little bit. Making sure there's a node. So this one, now that it's cut apart, that's its node. I can trim this right down because that's just extra and it's just going to go mushy. Don't need that. We can even cut this part down a little bit too. So that it looks more like that. And then we can pop it in our propagation station. And then this one as well. So we want to cut this one right here off, right below that node. It's just a teeny tiny node, but roots will grow to there. So I'll trim just below that. And then the roots will grow very nicely. And pop that one in as well. Makes a cute little display. And then this one, the node is left right there. So again, trim the bottom off there. Just don't trim off the node. And you can trim that off. And sometimes they have these extra like fibrous pieces. You can just peel those off too, because they will get rotten in the water. And you're going to peel them off eventually anyways. So yeah, and then stick it in there. You can dip them in some root hormone. I don't usually with my Monsteras because they root so fast. Yeah, so that's all for that one.
Neat.
Yeah.
All right, Lindsay, what's this plant here?
That is a pothos. It was supposed to be an enjoy pothos.
And do they like sun or shade? Where do you keep
Pothos are really good for low light rooms. So they don't have to be in direct sunlight. They can do it with a room that just has one window. But, of course, light is food. So the more light, the better they'll grow. But definitely this is a good low light plant. You just want to make sure that you have one light in your room. So this one, I don't know what's going on here. This one has like no variegation and this one has lots. But it's just getting a bit long. And so I was going to trim just a couple pieces off of those. So I'll probably only do like 6 little propagations. So I'm just going to cut off. And where I cut off is actually where there's a node there. That's going to grow a new leaf out of there. So it'll keep vining along. So that's cool. You don't have to worry about with vining plants like a pothos. It's just going to keep growing again from there.
Do all houseplants have nodes?
They don't all have nodes.
Oh.
Only certain ones. So there's some I don't quite know how to propagate yet because they don't have nodes and I'm still learning. I'm not the pro, just teaching what I know today. So we have, this one has a little tiny leaf coming out of it, but we have 3 sections with nodes on them that we can use. So again, I'm just going to trim off the bottom. So we have just the nodes and the leaf coming off of it. So they kind of look like a little Y shape like that.
Typically, how long does it take them to root?
So I find it takes 2 to 4 weeks for a root, and then you want to leave it until the root's about 2 inches long before you plant it in soil.
And do you need to change out the water?
You need to change the water every 2 weeks at least, or else it's going to start getting scummy and they're going to rot in there. You don't change it out for fresh water.
Okay.
All right, so then we have our little collection, so I'll probably propagate this in one container and this in another. So we'll have 2 plants, and I'll show you in my bathroom. That's where my propagation station is there, and it's really fun. So I'll show you how I'll put those in the test tubes there. All right.
What do we have here?
Next up, this is a really fun house plant. This is another pothos. This is a golden pothos. So you can see this one has kind of green leaves, just a couple flecks. This one has more flecks. This is from the same plant, but sometimes the vines just look different.
Is that depending on light or age or?
Just whatever the plant wants to do,
Okay.
it seems.
Okay, very good.
I haven't figured out why some are more variegated. So it's the same idea as this littler pothos, but it's just thicker and bigger leaves. So again, chop off one, make sure you have your nodes there. We don't need this long stem, so that's extra. So usually I just go along my vines, clipping away, making my little Y-shaped stems, making sure there's a node there. I'll do all these together. Alrighty. So here we have a pile of ready to propagate stems. They all have little nodes.
And your last plants.
My last plant. Okay, we need to make way for this plant here. Okay, this is a string of hearts, which was gifted to me from Sherry and Trisha from Sophiona, and it is doing so well. It is so long. I don't even know how long it is. It's probably 5 feet long because it's up on that shelf and it's touching the ground.
Well, let's see. Stand on the table. Let's measure.
Let's see. I'm 5'6". Is it touch? It's touching the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's over 5 feet tall, long. And you can see that it's like although it's doing really well, it's only got a couple strings, and so I just want it to be fuller. So I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with everything else, is just trim them down, find the nodes. They have nodes as well. They're smaller.
So you're just going to hack it off right here?
I don't know if I'll hack it off there, but I'm going to do like a... I'm not going to hack it off right here. I'm going to do a major hack because by the time they catch up, and it's like, it grows like so fast.
So not like a child cutting their hair.
Not like a child cutting their front bangs off. Should we insert a picture here?
I think so.
So yeah, I'm going to cut it here. Ooh, it's like cutting hair that you've grown forever. So then we're there. We're going to propagate this whole string. And then once it has some roots, we're going to plant them all in here and make this thick. And we're going to have a nice head of string of hearts hair.
Perfect. Maybe she'll give me one strand.
You can definitely have a strand.
Wonderful.
All right, let's head over to my bathroom and throw these guys in their test tubes and in some water.
Wonderful. Let's go.
Okay, so I have these little test tubes, and they have a magnet stuck to the back of them, which stick to the little dots on here, which makes a really fun propagation station and also looks really pretty when it's all filled up. I had this wall on the bathroom forever, and it was just a big blank wall, and I never knew what to put on it until I realized there's a south window in this room, and it's perfect for plants. So here we are. So I take my little test tube, and I take these little propagation fertilizer drops, and I just add like 2 little drops in here. So this little bottle goes a long way. And then I'll take my root hormone, which is like a little powder, and this might be hard to do not on table, but we'll try. And you can get in a little jar, but this is a little sample that came with these propagation stations. So I add just a little bit of dusting of root hormone in there. It's like that, a little concoction. Then I'll fill it up with a little bit of water. Just a titch. I'll swirl it around so it mixes up a little bit. And then I'll top it up with more water. About till there, and then I'll pop my propagations in. I usually do 3 or 4 pieces per test tube. And this one has a bonus leaf growing already, so we'll do 3 in there. And then one more tool that's really fun. This fun little waterer that you squeeze and it comes out. So I usually prop it, or put it onto my station, and then I'll go along and I'll fill them right up to the brim to make sure those nodes are covered. We want those nodes to be underwater. That's how the roots will grow. Okay, we got our next tube prepped, filled with water. I'm going to take the string of hearts and I'm just going to pluck off the leaves that are going to be underwater so they don't rot. And then I'm going to stick those in there. Hopefully far enough. Some might have to go underwater so it doesn't flop back out. Oop. There we go. So we're just going to stick that on the wall as well. And then we're just going to keep going with the plants that we've already cut apart and fill up this wall. We don't put the Monsteras in here because they're too big and too thick actually, and the roots get too pressed against the test tubes and they don't grow properly. So that's why I have that big container for them. Wall's all done. Now we're going to give it some time. We're going to let it grow for 2 weeks, change out the water, probably let it grow for another 2 weeks, check out the roots, and then plant them in soil. Thanks for joining us this week. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more fun Lindsey Coralee shows.